So 6 tips from as soon as that project got sold to make sure that you have happy clients. The first one is what we call the layered onboarding transition. So again, I've learned from running an agency the wrong way for many years, and today running it the right way, learning from my errors. Usually what happens is the sales department, like I mentioned before, the owner is going to go out there, get excited, sell the project, and then they're going to pass it on to a project manager, and the client's like, whoop, who's this guy? Wait a second, what about all the stuff that I talked about with the owner? Where's the excitement level? And then the client's disappointed. The other thing that happens a lot of times, and we did this again for several years in my previous agency, super excited, we want to close with you because we love you, but then it gets handed over to a strategist, and the strategist is going to do the onboarding, and he's like, oh my God, where's the owner? And all of a sudden the strategist does its whole first 2 weeks of onboarding, and then they pass it on to the project manager. In a matter of like 4 weeks, he's worked with 3 different people. All of the stuff that he's talked about has been lost, and the energy level, this type of onboarding does not work, or at least it hasn't worked for us. So what we've implemented that works really well is what we call the layered onboarding transition, right? So let's say that Chris and the owner of our company is talking to an owner, and as soon as they sign, or right before they sign, they're actually bringing me in, right? So I'm going to be the strategist. So Chris and we do a few different meetings together, where in the first 2 meetings that I'm involved in, I'm actually doing the majority of the conversation and majority of the speaking, and I'm leading the meetings. So by the time Chris leaves the picture, they're actually already in the habit of communicating with me. The strategist is somebody that comes in, and we have, Barb and a few other strategists, so it's not necessarily just me, but the strategist is the big picture person. They're going to come in and they're going to do this custom approach. They're going to say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and so forth. But while the strategist is doing that, our project manager, who's our worker bee, who's really going to run with the operations of implementing this on a day-to-day basis, is also part of these meetings, right? So again, the project manager, as the strategist is doing the strategy and the strategy meetings, is very involved with the client. So by the time the strategist steps out, the client has already been communicating and coordinating with the project manager. And that, in our experience, provides a much smoother transition from the excitement level that they were having with the sales team to actually hitting the ground running. The second tip, 3 meetings in 2 weeks. One of the things that we've done, again, as big mistakes in the past, is that we'll sign the client, and all of a sudden there's a meeting in the first week, and then there's a meeting maybe in 2 weeks, and all of a sudden there's this gap, right? Because as you know, a sales team is going to be on it. They're going to be calling, they're going to be following up, they're going to be interested. And if that excitement level doesn't transfer into the first week, that is going to be a disaster. So what we do is, the onboarding needs to be fast. The client, the communication and the excitement level on the onboarding needs to be higher and more exciting than during the sales, right? Again, we need to be aware of over strategy, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. So what do we do when we sign an agreement? There's a 4-week timeline that we work to make sure that the client, again, doesn't feel that kind of drop, right? Same day, next day, we have a call with the client, and this is going to be the owner and the digital strategist. And at this point, the project manager is in here already. All right, we're going to say, hey, we just got the agreement. This is what we're going to be doing. We're starting the onboarding. I share my screen. I kind of bring him into our world. And I say, hey, for the first week, I'm going to have you, do this homework. I'm going to do our initial strategy. So by the end of week 1, in 7 days, I actually have my first real strategy presentation where the client's going to look and say, whoa, these guys actually put a lot of work into this, and they actually do, right? There's a lot of front loading that we do in the beginning of the campaign to make sure that, they're seeing things work fast. The reason this is so important, again, is because back in the days, we would take the first month to do strategy, right? The client would sign an agreement. They would pay an initial payment right here on this initial, kickoff meeting. And then we would have the completion of the strategy done here. And then I can't tell you the amount of times that I've gotten the questions from clients saying, hey, so how was my first month's money spent? Did you guys do any work? I mean, was it just strategy, or did you? And it's true, right? And not only that, but the feeling and the satisfaction and the confidence that clients will get from that initial month sets the foundation for the rest of the working engagement, right? So what we do is we work really hard on getting that initial strategy on week 1 completed. And a lot of times the client will say, perfect, that's exactly what we want, hit the ground running. Sometimes we're going to have to keep working on it. So by the end of week 2, we have a final strategy. And by the middle of the first month, right, by the end of week 2, we actually hit the ground running. So we want to implement some SEO stuff. In our case, we're going to probably start doing some foundational citation audits, or we're going to be doing some tech fixes. We do a lot of micro strategies is what we do. We're going to start working on a micro strategy right away. So by the time that the 4 weeks is finished and we give them an end of month report, which I'll show you in a little bit, we can say, hey, we've gone through the onboarding, we did all the strategy work, and we've actually started implementing the work. That tells the client that we are on top of it, right? That tells the client that, they don't have to worry about checking up on us to see if we're moving fast enough, or if we're, actually using up all of the hours that they're paying for. Once you actually get into the cadence of implementation, things slow down a little bit and they're a little bit more easy to manage and maintain with not as much effort. But front loading and making sure that you're going above and beyond over the first 4 weeks is really a key to success. The other thing, back in the days when we used to be more of a traditional SEO agency, we had packages, right? Package 1, package 2, package 3. And I'm not going to go into this in a lot of detail, but I think the whole package concept of delivering SEO doesn't work anymore, right? You cannot say, package 1, you get 3 blog posts, it's 15 keywords, and it's, 50 inbound links that you get. The way that SEO has completely changed how deliverables need to be done. And again, if you're interested in understanding how we do that, look at the MicroStrategy seminar or webinar that we did. The link is above. But it's really about making sure that you, on that first week and second week, you're taking a step back. And this is why we have our strategists do that, because our strategist will educate the client on all of the 150 things that could be done for that client, because any client has, long laundry list of things that we could be doing. What are the 80-20 items that are going to be the things that we focus on now that are going to generate the highest amount of return, right? And that makes a huge difference, because what happens is a week into now, every time I have a strategy review with a client, I've gone to Search Console. I've done a lot of SE ranking. I've looked at all of the material that the client has given us in terms of the questionnaire and the notes. I actually put all of this into what we recommend the 3-month strategy should be. And we work with our clients on usually 3-month sprints or 6-month sprints. But we say, over the next 3 months, these are the things that we're going to accomplish, complete. And these are the things that you can expect to be done by, X date in the future. And again, these are the metrics. Big part of what we do here on the research and strategies, understand from the client. It's like, yes, we're an SEO agency. We're going to look at, keyword rankings and traffic and clicks, but what's important for you, right? So, is it an online purchase? Is it, a form fill? So those are things that we put together as top of mind on the reporting that we do on a monthly basis, but as part of what we do in terms of the strategy as well. And then I get that and I create what I call a roadmap. So roadmap, again, it's a 3-month roadmap. And what the roadmap looks like is something like this, right? This is a document that we're going to use, and we're going to say, hey, for the next 3 months, these are the big deliverables that we're going to implement for you. So let's say that this client is paying us $3,000 a month, right? So $3,000 a month for this client, we're going to do 3 micro strategies. And each micro strategy, by the way, it's about 20 different steps, right? We're going to do 2 press releases. We're going to do some blog posts, and then the supporting content. We're going to do some link earning, internal linking, meta audit, and so forth. And again, this is the result of all of the documentation and the reporting that I did. And there's a lot of stuff that I go through to explain to them why this is what we're going to do. And once they sign off on that, then I program into Basecamp. So Basecamp right now is the project management system that we're working with. We're actually in the process of moving over to monday.com. And the reason for that is because in terms of bringing the client into the project management system so they have a better view of where we are with each task, Monday for us does a little bit better job with that, but this is still kind of the Basecamp view. But the idea is, look, our first micro strategy that we're going to do for you. These are the 13 different steps, and we've upgraded this to be 17 now. These are the 17 steps that we're going to be doing. So, if you go back to those deliverables over 3 months, each one of those deliverables, anywhere from 5 to 17 to-dos, we're talking about hundreds of things, to-dos that we're going to do over, the next 2-3 months. But each one of these actual individual actions is tied to a big deliverable, right? So these 3 first tips were for how do you get over that first hurdle, which is, onboarding them and making sure that the client after the first 4 weeks doesn't have buyer's remorse, right? It happens a lot. So now that the client has been with us for a month and they are like, man, these guys are on it and I love what they're doing. The secret is, how do you keep them for years to come? And in full transparency, our first client for BSM, which was 13 years ago, and it was Chris's first client, he's still with us today. Obviously, that's not true for all of our clients. We have clients that come and go. We have some clients that come and, months 2 and 3 are like, oh, no. But for the majority, we have a 90% retention rate. And our first client from 13 years ago, SEO client, is still with us. So tip number 4, re-strategize periodically. Again, when I first did SEO many years ago as part of our SEO agency, we had the packages. Are you part of our SEO platinum plan? Well, you're going to get 3 blog posts, 2 of these and 5 of that, and just do that every month. That doesn't work. Doesn't work for 2 reasons. Number 1, that approach doesn't work anymore. So it's most likely not going to generate results. But number 2, the client sees the account as a stagnant, kind of repetitive, repeated thing that doesn't improve, doesn't adjust. So what we did is 3-month sprints. And the beauty of this is twofold. We do a strategy session, and then the project manager runs with that strategy for 3 months. And after that, our strategist comes in again, looks back and says, how did all of that work? Great. What do we need to focus on for the next 3 months? Readjust the activities. It might be less micro strategies. It might have to be more technical stuff. It might be that they're adding new sections to the website. Let's focus on that. And we do that every 3 months. Now, why that's important? 2 main reasons. Number 1, because instead of the client just working with the project manager, always the strategist, which is usually kind of a bigger thinker, in the agency, will come in and take a bigger look at the account. The client loves that. The client loves that, the strategist or the owner or somebody that's kind of managing the project manager is coming in to check in on the account and to check in with the client every 3 months. But number 2, this truly works, right? Because you're always like sailing, right? You can't just let the sailboat go in the same direction for the whole trip. You are always adjusting to see what are the important goals, what are the things that we did that worked really well, and readjusting the direction that the boat is going, and then obviously readjusting, the tasks and the deliverables that you're going to be doing. This keeps the campaign fresh. This keeps the client excited because he's just not getting the same thing every month, and he's not talking to the same person every month. Although the project managers are amazing, but just the ability for the strategist to come in and the client get the feel that they're talking to one of the upper management, every once in a while, they love that. Tip number 5, communication pulse. So this is something that I'm very adamant about. Going back to the picture of the train, over communication works. And I've gotten a lot of pushback from my project management team. And what this is this document here, and I'm actually going to jump to it real quick in a second. But what we use is I have all of my project managers print this document. I have one right here that I use for the projects that I'm managing. And I ask that our project managers send every client a daily pulse. What's a daily pulse? It's a daily puff of smoke. It's a question. It's a quick update. It's a screenshot of Google Search Console showing them a short win. It's an update on a specific task. It's over communicating. Why? Because I've been the client many times, right? And when I'm paying an agency to do something and I don't get an update for a week, in my mind, I have no idea what's going on. And they might be working their butts off over there, doing a lot of work, going above and beyond. But if I'm not getting any updates, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I think I'm on the back burner with those guys. I'm not sure they're doing any work, right? The pulse is a way to overcome that. And one of the things that, my project management team pushes back on is they say, oh, no, but it's too much. And I'm like, you tell me ever when a client said, please stop sending me so many updates because this is enough. And then we'll stop doing these pulses. And we've never, ever had that complaint, right? So every month I have my project managers print this. Some of them use this digitally. Some of them use kind of a slightly different format. But it's send a pulse. And we do pulses internal and external. External pulses is to the client. Hey, client, we're working on this, blah, blah, blah. Hey, here's a screenshot. It works, right? Over communication. And the internal pulses are essentially looking at the vendors and the people that are actually doing all of the internal work and touching base with them on a daily basis to make sure that everything that is working, that is having to be produced for that client is getting done. So there's no surprises by the time that's deliverables. And that goes back to Extreme Ownership, which is a Jocko book, which I highly recommend any agency owner to read, because it just empowers project managers to really own the deliverables and the quality of what they do. So Extreme Ownership by Jocko, and the pulse internal and external is a great way to do that. And my last tip, which is the last but not the least, but almost not as important, and this is the reason I'm going to say is not as important, because at the end of the month, we do send a report. And our report is broken down into the first page. Here's our strategy. Remember, our roadmap for the 3 or 6 months is this, right? So we always go back to it every month so they don't lose track of what the bigger picture is. Then we take a screenshot of our project management system and say, hey, by the way, on the tasks that we're working on, these are all the ones that have been completed, and these are the ones that are being opened. The reason we're moving to Monday.com is because the user interface on Monday to visualize the big 3 to 6 month roadmap and where we are with each one of those things is a much better experience than this. So if I do one of these presentations in the future again, you'll most likely be looking at a Monday.com, communication. Again, it's how we feel is the best way to communicate to the clients. But most importantly, we do an executive summary. And the reason the executive summary is so important is because in our experience, 9 out of 10 clients, they don't read the reports. They don't look at the reports, right? But they will look at this executive summary, which is the first page of the report, but it's also going to be in the email saying, hey, client, executive summary, click here to download your report. And then the report's going to have some metrics, which we get from Google Search Console, which we get from SEO ranking. And then we're going to be, and this is the most important part of the report, is like, hey, client, this is the stuff that we completed for you last month. They love seeing this, right? Because they know that the money that they paid us was put to good work. And client, this is the stuff that we're going to be working on the next month. Are you okay with this? Do you have any changes? Would you want us to focus on anything else? 9 out of 10 times, they're fine with it because they know that we're doing a really good job at running at this. But the reason that I say that reporting is not as important is because of the pulses. The pulses on the daily basis is so great at communicating to the client the wins and the increases and the things that we've completed and where we are on the overall map, that by the time that they get the report at the end of the month, they don't really take the time to go through it because they are well aware of everything that's happening with the campaign. And the reason that I know that 9 out of 10 of our clients don't read the reports is because we can track that. Right? We have a link that clients can actually click and download, and the majority of them will look at the executive summary on the email and will already know everything that's happened throughout the month because of the pulses, and they don't need to, read the report. So in a nutshell, when you do, the client management correctly, the client is always aware of where you are in the process of managing the project. So pretty much that's my presentation for today. Hopefully there are some nuggets of information that you can pick up from my many years of doing mistakes and learning from those mistakes and implementing things that for us work tremendously well today.